CAF World Cup Qualifiers. Africa is here. I mean, it hasn't left. It hasn't gone. We've been here this whole
Yes.
time. But this last window, I termed it as it's the movement window, right? Separation weekend. You know, we have those in college football here in North America where it's like, oh, the teams that want to separate from the pack in groups. That's what this last window was. The teams trying to get back into the fray. Some of them did, some of them didn't. And some teams ran away from their groups and are pretty much one step in North America, visa spending. Because you have to say it.
Yes. True. Or ban, whichever comes first.
Listen, man, you guys have you have a year and change. If whatever posts on X you put up, you can delete them or not. I think keep them up. Be spicy. Let's see what happens.
It's a free world these days. You can say whatever you want.
Allegedly.
Yes. Well, you can say everything you want, but there's consequences to everything that comes with it. But you can.
In that case, yes, that is true. That is true. But we're here to talk about African World Cup qualifiers. I have MoFutbol here. It's shocking he's not on another live stream. We recorded this. He sleeps apparently. I don't know when he sleeps, but he sleeps at some point.
We find ways.
Yeah, we do find ways. Coffee is still available. I'm a water man, so I just here sipping my
Hey, look
liquid.
at that pure tea leaf
Pure tea.
right there.
I like to say it's a fancy glass. Listen, I went to my local dollar establishment. I'm like, $1?
Yeah.
By means. I need to fancy up the place.
If you don't say it, no one knows.
Well, now they know. I'm a cheap, fancy man. But we're here to talk about African World Cup qualifiers. 9 spots up to grabs, maybe 10. And there are stories that are fascinating in every group, whether they are teams that are surprising us, teams that are disappointing us. When it comes to you as a general, before we start going group by group, is there a story for African World Cup qualifiers that is really standing out to you as you're watching this? And you can be as biased as you want if you want to say how my Senegal team is doing well or not.
I would say probably Sudan is the team that has surprised me the most. And I think, since we're only talking soccer, football, but I think they're just in sports in general.
Yes.
Sudan hasn't not surprised me, but encouragement on seeing how well their sporting teams are doing. And in the World Cup qualifiers, they are still in it.
Yep.
So I think those are the one that if you would have told me 6 months ago that Sudan was going to still be in the run, in the close to even Senegal is not qualified yet, I would have said you crazy. But I think they're the one that has surprised me so far on the team that still has a chance.
No, I think going into this competition and this qualifying round, and especially after what we saw with AFCON qualifiers, what we would term as the middle class of African football is certainly pushing the bottom of the establishment and really saying these are warning shots. Like we're coming. Like you'll see a piece here or there, but we have talent and we're pushing. So don't just think you can come to whatever country it is and just expect an easy 3-0 win. To me, it's been about the middle class, how it's emerging and how it's pushing. And I think that's nothing but exciting for African football. I mean, if you love watching AFCON, you know how chaotic it can be. Any game can go any way, and I think I love it that way. But World Cup qualifiers, we're seeing that. And I think we're going to go through that and talk about it here. So that's what we're here to do. We'll talk about it. And already, right off the bat, we see those Northern Africans, the Egyptians, the Pharaohs just doing the thing, which is unfortunate because usually whenever they change the format, the team that always somehow, for whatever reason, gets the short stick is Egypt, right? Back in 2014 when they went to the 2-team playoffs where they had 5-10 teams, they'd all played home and away legs. Egypt played amazing in that round, and they ran to a buzzsaw that was that Ghana team in 2014, and Ghana just 7-1 them at home, and then that was just tough. And then the next round, they were able to qualify. And then the round after that, they ran into a Sierra Leone team that had beat them in the AFCON finals. And then again, So when they switched to the group stage, I was like, oh, I don't know. I guess I'll put my money on, I don't know, Sierra Leone making a crazy run or something.
They played well last game against Egypt.
They did.
Yeah.
But I think Mo Salah is the name that's going to get a lot of the headlines for Egypt. But they have been able to be pragmatic in this, but also they're getting the results, right? And that, I think that's another interesting story. It's not about just results, it's about when you get leads, holding on to them, and then getting points out of every game, the points that you need. Egypt's been able to do that. One draw in all their games, the rest have been wins. Sitting on top of the group at 16. Burkina Faso, I expected them to be here. I don't think I expected too much from Sierra Leone. I was hoping to see a little bit more from them, but they just seem like a side that is transitioning, finding the new faces of the program. Ethiopia, to me, could have been a wild card. Guinea-Bissau, to be perfectly honest, I expected more from them.
Yeah,
I thought,
especially from their CAF runs. Yes.
Mhm. And so seeing them in fifth in their group, it's a little bit disappointing. We'll see what they're able to do for the last 4 games here, and then Djibouti in last. They got a draw, so I mean, good for the boys. Good for the boys. But when you look at Group A, what are some of the things that stand out to you in that group, in that sense?
Yeah, and I think it's probably the top 3 we pretty much figured, except the Guinea-Bissau that you were mentioning. But coming out of the CAF, they were not as well structured as they used to be, I guess, in the previous one. So my question was, because if you ask me from Guinea-Bissau who is their main player, I couldn't be able to tell you. So I think that's probably one of those times where it looks fitted. Egypt, we all knew they were going to make it. Burkina Faso had a chance, and Sierra Leone, they're playing well at this moment. So I won't count them out yet, but I think Ethiopia, Guinea-Bissau, and Djibouti, they're spectators at this moment. For good.
Yeah. And I think that's all you can really hope and expect for them. I think they'll push, still create some problems for some of the other teams as they continue to grow. But like this
African
World
teams.
Cup experience, exactly. I think they're always going to be able to create some sort of chaos. That's African football in a nutshell. So you're not going to be too afraid of it. But I think Egypt performing as they are, I think that's good for them. I think the question for Egypt is going to be when they get to the big stage. Now, we've seen them have deep runs in Africa. We've seen them dominate the competition in Africa for a while. Are they one of those African sides that you think can match up well? Because I think there's other groups, there's other teams that are here where you look at them and you think of them facing, and I know it's a little bit Eurocentric in that sense, where we're like facing the European teams. Can we beat the European teams? And the Asian and South American teams, like, we're here too, right? Like we're like we play this game.
Yes,
too.
They are.
But it's like, is Egypt, do you look at Egypt as a side that you think can finally make that transition at the international stage and compete with some of the world's best teams in their group? If they make this World Cup, do you think they can get out of their group and then maybe have a nice showing in that sense?
Probably people might not like that too much, but I'm not too confident that Egypt will have that good of a World Cup. Unless there's still 11 players. So even if Salah is, playing out of his mind, I still don't think they have enough pieces to make a deep run compared to some of the other teams that we'll talk about that have more players that, not only play in Europe and other countries, but also have that experience to play against those European countries versus Egypt is like, there's one guy that you can name. Even though he's playing out of his mind, but still, if a double team or triple team will cover one player.
As the Canadian in me just feels so hurt that you're saying Omar Marmoush is not a name that we don't know.
Maybe we'll say on my side of the The border.
Your side, okay, fair enough. On your
Yes.
side of the border,
Yes.
sir. Know your 1.5 year roots, sir. Okay, know
Well,
your 1.5 year roots.
it's been a while. It's been 20 plus years.
Fair enough, fair enough. But I think they are a side that like you'd want to. I think they're a team that show me how they look at AFCON. I think they are a team that, based off of Salah's form, you would expect that they're a favorite to win AFCON. I think the only disadvantage is that AFCON is in December this year.
Yep.
It's not in the summer. It's not just happening there. So can they maintain that form? And furthermore, I think with them, can they now be able to supplement their team properly to be able to go on this type of a tournament run, whether they be pragmatic like Morocco was at the last World Cup, or if they just decide to say, we have the horses that can compete, so we're going to go and compete, and we'll see how well we do. But I think this group feels like it is set. I think Egypt's moving forward. I think Burkina Faso getting that second place spot, hopefully competing for a spot in the intercontinental playoff is probably what we're looking at here.
Yep.
But I am encouraged by what I'm seeing from Egypt. I think they're finally putting it together here. But again, they're always going to be judged by how they do at the World Cup, and their last showing wasn't the best. So we'll have to wait and kind of see what that looks like with them.
Yeah, and one thing I like, especially when just looking at the first table, is that it's not the top three teams that just ran off with those games.
Yes,
you see that there's still except for Djibouti, but you still see some green of teams that perform against each other. So as long as I see, the top three that did not just run away, at least it gives you a picture of how well those top three teams are playing, but also how the group was. Because then, if they ran off on that group, then you're not really sure how they will perform at the next stage, which is the World Cup.
And that's a very fair point, right? And you talk about the groupings, right? A group where your top three ran away with a group is Group B, but I don't think it's the top three that many expected. Right now, you have DR Congo leading this group with Senegal in second, and Sudan, I think, is still the surprise for a lot of people following African football. How is Sudan putting together these results? I mean, the Ghanaian in me says, get a Ghanaian manager. Where else can you go wrong? See, now we're not cursing him, but after AFCON qualifiers, we had words, but now it's like, no, we love you. Go do it.
He's doing his thing.
Exactly. Right. So those are your top three: South Sudan, Mauritania, and then Togo are your bottom three in Group B. This group is fascinating to me because I think on paper, and I will give you my opinion on Senegal. And as a Senegalese, you can feel free to tell me how you feel about it. Senegal feels like a country who have talent. Maybe they are holding on to a generation one cycle too many in terms of giving them the bulk of their opportunities. They still have young talent that I think they could use. I think Senegal to me is a team that should start to lean on their young talent right now. And if it's not working, you still have the vets. You still have the veterans there that you can lean on in those situations. They aren't out of it by any means. Like, they're 1 point out of it. But Sudan has been so practical and pragmatic with their wins that you can't count them out. And then furthermore, DR Congo is a side. Remember how we talked about, like, can Egypt match well? I think DR Congo is a side that can match up well with a lot of the teams that they play, just based off their physicality, the leagues that some of their players play in, and just their style overall. I think they're a side that play them in friendlies. They'll look like, and again, I'll use the Ghana example. They'll look like Ghana playing Switzerland before the last World Cup, and then we found out they just couldn't defend. But that's besides the point. Like, you look at this Group B, what's your opinion on my take on Senegal there? Is that an accurate take, or do you feel that maybe they just haven't been performing in that sense?
I think it's somewhat accurate take, but I do see the transition. You probably saw from Como, the young kid that actually turned down Spain to go and play with Senegal. So he actually played well, and I think went back to Como in Italy and performed as well. So I think there is that transition, but Sadio Mane will still be that guy for the next World Cup. And I think that'll probably be that's final cycle for these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we will have probably 3 or 4 guys that might, after this World Cup might not be theirs, but there's just a dozen of Senegalese players that are in League, and we'll say League, and also in England that are ready to take the torch.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned
Yeah.
for probably the next 2 World Cup when it comes to Senegal, fortunately. And I think for
And
who I'm disappointed is Togo. That I
yes.
I would have expected a lot more from them, especially it's Togo. They're supposed to be, we'll say 2 at least, but they have not even won a game yet.
No. And I think from name perspective, Togo has always been a good, tough side in that area. But for whatever reason here, I think Senegal has taken everything. If you had swapped Senegal and Sudan, I mean that's Sudan and Togo, my apologies.
Okay. Yep.
That would have been non least surprising to me.
Correct.
I think Sudan, after their AFCON qualifying run, and then you looked at what they were doing in World Cup qualifiers, you're like, okay, no. They're going to push here. And again, you look at the state of Sudan, you look at South Sudan, you look at all the turmoil that's happening there. Like, I don't say this like mockingly, but they're literally a Didier Drogba away from qualifying for the World Cup, and someone just saying, "Guys, can we figure this out here, please?"
Yeah, and it's not just in soccer; they're doing it in basketball too. Those guys and ladies are speaking up because of. Would you imagine if just that little conflict stop, and then you can have the North and we'll say Sudan and South Sudan
Yeah,
just for those events? That probably would speak a lot more. Um, but Sudan is stacked on
they
multiple sports.
Yep. They're doing a good job again. And that's the interesting. You even mentioned with Senegal, the plight of the dual national.
Hmm.
I don't even want to say, and we talked about this the last time we were on together, like opportunity matters, right?
Yep.
To these players, right? Yes, the pride for your nation and all those things, and I almost say it like tongue in cheek how we romanticize it. You want a player to want to wear the flag, and I'm not saying that's not true, but for some of these players, at the end of the day, what they're looking for is where can I be the best version of myself, right? And
They're pros.
exactly. And so, like, yes, you could be in a long line of good players playing for a Spain, and for whatever reason, it seems like it's Spain all the time. Like
Well,
Brahim Diaz,
how it migrates.
yeah,
It just pretty much follow migration, and you know, and I guess we'll say colonize countries, and Spain is in the middle of everything, right? I think most
yeah,
Africans, if they want to go up in Europe, they either have to go to Spain
hmm
or they got to go to Morocco and then Spain, and then here they are in Europe. So I think a lot of them has stopped there.
hmm
That's why we have the Lamine Yamal and all of those guys because of
because of
they
Spain.
stopped there.
Yeah, Spain is a good spot. It's a good hotbed for development. But again, look at those players. It's opportunity, right?
Yes.
Brahim Diaz, it's opportunity with Morocco. Like you talk about your Senegalese player, it's opportunity with Senegal, right? Even if you wanted to go like to the Nigeria where Promise David leaves Nigeria to go play for Canada, it's opportunity, right? Like you look at the depth chart and say, I mean, one is selected, everything else, I think, I think I could step in here, and I don't have to qualify. I just go, yo, son. I think that is the reality, and you almost want to treat it like a commodity. And even though with some people, national teams, you don't want to look at it as if it's a business, but at the end of the day, they're trying to further their career. So give them the opportunities where they can grow, where they can strive, where they can build on their brand and their abilities. Give them a platform, and they will return it in kind, or not, and you yell about ACLs. And that'll be a whole.
I guess
Well,
that will be the Ghana Canadian discussion.
listen, okay, they just won third at Nations League. I was like, okay, good. We're gonna enjoy this. Good, solid. And
Yeah.
now people are yelling about agents and ACLs, and I'm just like, well, I can never have a good thing. It's okay.
Yeah.
First, it's
Blame the
Olympic.
agent. He's just mad because
It's
there was
he's
probably
protect
some performance bonus from his check.
true, and like I feel for everyone. The interesting thing with me is like if you Davies doesn't make statements
No.
often.
Mm.
He's a very like he's a shy. He has a big personality on like because he's twitching and he has a big. But when it comes to public statements, he doesn't make them.
Yeah,
And
he said
so
it. I think one of his interviews, he said he was like the weirdest soccer player because he doesn't
Mhm,
do much of what the others are doing, and
exactly.
he'd rather be by himself and all that. So yes, I totally understand what.
And so yeah, that'll be a quick Canadian segue to controversy.
There you go.
Always drones, ACLs, and posts. I can't wait for next time when we're talking about I don't know milk in bags. I don't know what we're gonna argue about next time. I don't know.
I've lived through that one, so I understand.
True. But when you look at Group B here, do you think Senegal gets it out? Do you think they're able to pull it through in the end? Do you think DR Congo can hold out, or you think Sudan can come in and surprise? Because
I think Sudan would still be the surprise, probably the playoffs.
mm,
Senegal has to get their stuff together. We'll
yeah,
call it that way. And DR, Congo, is probably where you will see their experience. If they are, like we always say, when during a game, when you're leading, are you able to keep the lead? It will be the exact same thing for Congo. Can they manage to not slip for the
yeah,
next few games? And that's where the experience shows up, is that, the Senegal and Egypt knows that once they're leading, they know how to kind of
yeah.
stay even. But now let's see how DR, which they lost one game already. So we'll see how they respond and bounce back from it. I totally forgot who
Indeed.
they're playing next, but
I actually have that here. They are playing match day 7. Match day 7. You know what? We're gonna share this here instead. Match day 7. Where are you, DR? It's the most confusing thing to find some days. Why can't I find DR?
it's always when you're looking for it.
Right. And the second I stop looking for it, I'm like, oh, there it is, right there. Unneeded to be found. And they play sometime on September 1st in the September 1st area. Okay. They play in September.
That's
That,
madness.
but that's how it breaks down. Right? No real, and I kind of do like it because there's no real friendlies in June. There's no real competitive games in June. They just go straight to friendlies in June. So at least it gives you time, build a little bit, and then you get back to the action after the seasons. Most of the European seasons start there. So I think
Yeah, because
that,
sometimes, especially for some of those small countries, they're playing maybe in different leagues,
mhm,
more northern leagues, and sometimes they do not practice or they do not play when the other countries that have the other sides are still fully active. So when they meet, in September, you have a
yeah,
team that's completely fit, that's still match fit, and the other
yes,
one just had a training camp technically.
technically, the the words like how that differs on teams is very interesting to me. But
And
I
you can
think,
tell.
yeah, you know who's match fit and ready to go, and who just had a camp.
Yes.
Yeah. One team is on their toes on the pitch, the other team is walking out. It's like, yep, it's gonna be one of those games, boys. It's gonna be one of those games. Apparently, Sudan is playing Senegal, and that's all I could find. I'm sure
Oh,
someone
then
saw
we're
it
good.
here.
I'm sure
Yes,
someone will mention it.
yeah, someone's yelling at it in the comments right now. Be like, it's over there. Look over there. But we'll
Like,
be
yeah.
fine. But yeah, I think DR Congo right now for me is a side that I would love to see them get through because I do think they have the horses to compete well internationally. But I think Sudan right now are punching above their weight that people expect. But like the point you made on Senegal is a fair point. The experience of seeing a game out, and we'll talk about a team like Gambia who don't have that experience yet, and it showed in points they've left on the pitch
Yeah.
and how it's kind of looked. It's like, But I think Senegal have the veteran experience to see this out. So I'm hoping they can do it just for the namesake. But if either them or DR Congo from a footballing standpoint, I would love for them to go. From a story standpoint, give me Sudan. Just put them in
That
the
would be a
World Cup.
story, yes.
It would be
And
the
plus
story of the
Senegal
game.
have a new coach too, so we're still working those kinks.
Yes. I never was able to ask you about this. How do you feel about your new coach and having your old
Well,
coach
he's been
now?
around the
Yeah.
Senegalese federation for a long time, so it was like a succession. I was a little surprised that it happens this late. I would have thought
Yeah.
that maybe it would have happened much earlier, so the qualification of it. But then now he's coaching a different team. I totally forgot which team he's coaching now. So it's like, I wonder if it was an intern, if it was more sporting issues
Mhm.
or contract, or was it something else? Because he's our most successful African coach in the continent.
No, he is.
But I haven't heard more stories of like what happened. It's just that we have a new coach, and now he's coaching some other
Libya.
African country.
Yeah, he's
So he's like,
coaching Libya
oh,
right now.
not even
Yeah.
African country. So yeah, so that I'm still not even 100% sure of what that coaching changes. The only
Mhm.
thing I know is that it's a different philosophy, so that means they have to work on different kinks.
Yep.
And clearly, he's bringing in young players that he's seen to come back and see what they can show. So
Wait and see.
it's gonna be interesting. Yes.
Indeed. I think the big talk when it comes to groups is Group C for World. I say big talk because I mean the African in me is just sad that you're seeing such a big name like Nigeria in fourth place. Now the Ghanaian in me, oh, is here for it. Oh, he's here for this.
Fair
Don't
enough.
have to hear about. I've had a weekend talking about rice. Okay, I'm here for it. I'm here
Hey,
for it. But Group C, South Africa doing what they're doing, I think
yep.
that is not as surprising. Rwanda, Benin, Nigeria, Lesotho, then Zimbabwe. I mean, outside of, Lesotho players and the Federation trying to complain about players who played with yellows, which, there's always controversy in Africa for some reason.
Has to.
I mean, the story of this group is Nigeria being in fourth, and the story of Nigeria is very simple. They, for whatever reason, cannot see a game through. Their 1-1 draw against Zimbabwe in the last game should not have been 1-1,
Nope.
but they cannot. They, to me, and Gambia are two teams that have the offensive talent to be able to score 2 to 3 goals every game. They have the defensive, and Nigeria has no excuse for this. For the talent that they have no excuse for not being able to see out a 1-0 game or a 2-0 game. But the
No,
story for night, yeah,
no,
go.
no. I'm saying, and like you were saying, the offensive one. I think it's just weird to hear Nigeria not having good defenders. As a Chelsea fan, I could have named plenty, but now it's like, and plus scoring one goal, I does not sound like Nigeria at all.
It doesn't, but like they've tried the coaching, and this might just be and like for where you are. I think I'll say something that might resonate to you from a USMNT standpoint.
A
It's
little bit.
between the ears. The talent is there, but for whatever reason, when they get on the pitch, it's between the ears.
Do you think there's too many individuals, players?
Nigeria
Oh,
has more nines than some countries have quality players,
true.
right? And so, how do you get that all? But Nigeria's team, they had a good run at AFCON, the last one that they were in, where the coach was just able to said, you know what, we're gonna park this bus. We're just gonna park this bus. And as they were doing this, I was yelling on the side like I was Jesse Pinkman and Breaking Bad. They can't keep getting away with this. They aren't defending well. And then finally a team made them pay. the way that Nigeria is playing, this has been more in line with how they have been playing for the last few years. You take the deep run at AFCON out. They've been a side that have been frustratingly just poor. And not like poor in the sense that they're bad, but whoever they play, it's going to be a tight contested game for no reason, right? They play Cape Verde, it's going to be 1-1 because Cape Verde's going to keep it close. They play Cote d'Ivoire, it's going to be 1-1 because Cote d'Ivoire is going to keep it close.
Yep, and they were not playing so well either.
Exactly. So Nigeria, there's an argument with Nigeria where the side hasn't been playing well. Off name recognition, we expect more out of them. But if you look at the pitch, right, and this is what I was saying about Ghana, like when they didn't make the AFCON, right? If you look at them on the pitch, nothing about this is surprising. I mean, now Ghana's kind of started to turn it around. So the Ghanaians coming out of the woodworks being like, they were always strong. No, we weren't.
No.
We were not. We haven't beaten a team with a center back in goal. Okay, I will never let them live that down. I will never let them live that down. But this Nigeria, but this Nigeria side has just been a side that have just not been able to put performances together for a full 90 minutes. And so seeing them in fourth place isn't a surprise to me. It's frustrating, but it isn't a surprise. Like we've talked about Nigeria in this group, and Rwanda's like, "Hi guys, we're in second. Like, can we talk?"
Oh, they're playing with how do you call house money, pretty much. But just one thing, I think one thing that's interesting. You mentioned Nigeria and then Ghana and all that. So it looks like the original countries that were well known, where you say African soccer, look like the staple teams are not playing as well. So I'm starting to wonder if they're not playing as well, or is that the continent is catching up to those 3 or 4 that were the de facto powerhouses.
I think for a lot of, so I'll use I think it's a bit of both. I think the top teams haven't been playing well, but that's also, you have to give credit. There's the other team gets paid too, right? Or I mean, it's African football, so the other team gets on the pitch.
Somewhat, yeah.
Some coaches are still waiting to be paid. We all know who they are, but so like we said, I think the middle class of African football are taking steps. They are getting better, and because of that, the players are improving. Some of the coaching decisions are getting better. The federations,
no comments.
No comments. No. So I think they're pushing there, but I had this argument with my brother this weekend where it was just, is it because that our top teams just not taking games seriously, or are they just not good? And for me, you cannot take something seriously, but if you consider, like, you cannot tell me that for AFCON that the Ghanaian side just didn't take it seriously because they didn't care about playing at AFCON. No, they were bad. Like they were missing shots on goal so comically bad that I went from just being angry to just laughing. There was nothing else to do. Can't tell me, right? So I think there's a point to that, but you have to give credit for these teams that are pushing. Rwanda are finding formulas to win. Benin are having formulas to win. And Nigeria have just not been putting together the full performances. South Africa have been, right? And like in World Cup qualifiers, you just need a stretch of good run. You just need a good run of games, and then you're good. South Africa has won 3 straight games.
Yeah, and just looking at the score goals, Nigeria just scored 7 and scored against 6. So that's a very bad defending compared to South Africa that scored 10 goals and only got 5.
It is, but like if you look at like Nigeria's games, their problem have just been, I mean, the thing that will doom them ultimately is these draws. They have 4 draws in 6 games.
That's
right. That's 8 points they've left on the table, right? The Zimbabwe game should not have been a draw, but they played with their food too long and they couldn't put it away. and then Zimbabwe got the draw. So instead of Nigeria sitting with 9 points, it's sitting in second place where they should be, they're in seventh. And yes, they're not out of it, but at this point, barring a collapse from Bafana, like Nigeria are playing to play in an intercontinental playoff game for CAF. Like that's what they're playing for right now. They need a big window, and thankfully they play Rwanda in their next window in September. But Nigeria's matchups have just been draws. They had 3 draws in their first games and then a loss. And so, I mean, they drew Lesotho. Like, think, like, no, wait, wrong year.
No.
Let's get the right year here. Let's get this right here, proper here.
Yeah, even though you almost don't want them to make it, but they have to make it to the World Cup. It can.
I don't think they will, though.
No,
Like
at this rate,
no,
probably not, unless Osimhen just wakes up one morning and I'm going to score 4 goals a game, and probably more.
Osimhen needs service. Like, look, man, could you look his way, please?
Yeah,
Like,
he's our African best player, right?
Yeah. They have the last 2 male African players of the year on the pitch, and they have 4 draws to show for it.
Makes no sense.
Listen, man, respect to Rwanda. They are playing well. And I think they have become my new don't sleep on team just because I've liked kind of how they've been able to get results. Are they punching a little bit over their weight right now? Yes. But I mean, the team, like we said with the other group, right, with Group B, ideally, probably South Africa wins this group. But the story would be, for me, if Rwanda would need a big result against Nigeria at home in September.
And Benin will have to choke.
Exactly.
Because just looking at, the placement now, it looks like Rwanda is just on top because they've allowed less goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the only difference between the Benin and Rwanda. So that means Rwanda will have to show, like we said, their experience to see if they can stay a number 2. Don't even try to win the group. Their role will pretty much have to stay at number 2. Mm-hmm. But Benin is literally what, 2 goals away?
Yeah, two goals away from them. Yeah, 2 goals. They need 2 goals to be up on them. So yeah. It's definitely. I think Bafana again. They're in a great spot right now. I think with Nigeria stumbling, they have enough space where another solid window, and they could start looking at travel papers.
Yep.
But I mean, September, you need to get the wins here, and September is fascinating in that sense because let me just scroll here and see South Africa. What are you doing?
So they pretty much have to just coast and not. They can pretty much do all ties. They just cannot lose a game.
That is true. So South Africa has Lesotho in September, which is great. And then the next game that they would have would be against. This is a curious case because I think who they play next. I think that'll be a very big indicator of how I think they could play.
That'd be interesting if Lesotho goes on the run because 6, 7, 8, you're just one bad day or one bad game away from dropping all the way to number 5.
Yep. Oh, this Nigeria is going to dictate how this group ends. Because Nigeria has Rwanda on the 1st and they have South Africa on the 8th.
Also, they can play party poopers.
Nigeria will whoever goes to this group, Nigeria will play a role in that. And this includes Nigeria. Again, if Nigeria gets a 6-point window, they're back in it. And they've taken 6 points every game that they play against Nigeria plays South Africa. That's a 6-point game. And I think they have again, no one's doubting their talent. We are questioning between the ears for them because there's no reason that they can't see these games through. But if they're able to do so, they're right back in it.
Yep, it's all on them. It's how it looks like.
Yep, it's all on them. And Zimbabwe, guys, thanks for coming out. We really appreciated your 4 draws. You've added more drama to this. They're a side that is interesting. They have a player in the Prem right now, and so
you need more than one.
I know you need more than one, but it's like, you know how African football is. Like we are playing. It's not we are playing in Europe. It's we are playing in England. We are a big side, so you know how that goes.
Oh
but
yes.
Yeah, I think that could be interesting and fascinating there. But I think they can, if they're able to keep building, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, after what you just told me, I definitely will be looking at that group because it literally 1 game away. If Nigeria win 2 games, they're pretty much back to 2 and maybe first, right? So the 6. Well, no, they still
worst case scenario they'll be even in 3rd.
Yeah,
if they win their next 2 games, because then if they win the next 2 games, they're in second. Yeah, because they play Rwanda and South Africa. Yeah,
so second is their worst position they can get.
Yeah.
Well, so it looks like South Africa, then they're pretty much sitting well on there because even losing points, Rwanda and Benin and Nigeria cannot get more than 12 points.
That's true. And especially that window. Again, Nigeria has another window where it's at your boots. It's up to you to do with it. But it has to be 6. They can't do another 4-point window because a 4-point window means they're playing for second. And they need to get that top spot so that they can survive. So we'll see what they're able to do. It's not late, but it's getting late early. So they need to make a move yesterday. And hopefully, a good summer's rest and a good start to the season gets them going. But let's move to Group D here. Cape Verde, Ryan Mendez and crew. I see you, boys. All right, Cameroon in second, Libya with Cisse. Good for him. Land on his feet. Angola in 4th, Mauritius in 5th, Eswatini in 6th. I'm surprised Eswatini has only conceded 9 goals. I'm proud of you guys. I'm so proud of you.
Park the bus.
Hey, park everything, okay?
Yes.
But Cape Verde leading Cameroon. I think, again, there are fascinating stories within African football. Cape Verde have been my don't sleep on team for the last 5 years. So I'm glad that they are awake finally, right? They finally had the good run at AFCON, and then they ran into Ronan Williams saving everything. So what are you supposed to do? But them leading this group over a Cameroon side that I don't know what to make of this Cameroon side. I want to trust it, but again, on paper, I want to trust it, but my heart says the story, the Sharks, give me Cape Verde. Give me them, please. And Libya, I think, can do some damage in the group. When you're looking at this Group D, what surprises you? What fascinates you about it?
Surprising, I probably won't say there's much surprise. Maybe if it was Cameroon and Cape Verde, switch up. But other than that, Angola maybe it's a little bit disappointing on where they are as well. But it's not like a big how for Group D. Because if you would have asked me, it was probably going to be Cameroon, Cape Verde, and Angola. 1, 2, and 3. But hey, Cameroon they have not lost the game. They just tied too many games.
Yes.
So just like Nigeria, for them, the ball is on their side, unless they're playing Cape Verde one more time. But looks about right to me.
Yeah, it does feel that way. I think those two battling it out. I think whoever doesn't make it out of that group become automatically one of the more dangerous sides in the African Intercontinental playoff because I think both sides are set to get results. More so if Cameroon makes it through, I think they are equipped to win a game.
Sure.
Capo Verde is a side that they get the automatic bid, get in and get through. They're just a side that I'm a little bit worried with them on an overall because you can't be the don't sleep on team for 5 years and you're not going to be 25 for 5 years. Okay, you're going to be 30, right? Ryan Mendez, this is his last run here, right? And as good of a player as he's been, like he's getting up there in age. So for me, he's 35 this year. So if they're able to make the World Cup, I mean, that's it for him. Like I don't think he can push forward with another run.
You never know. I mean, it's
Like, this is African football. Yes, it's true.
Yeah, and in these days, players do play, top level, maybe till 38. So maybe he has 2 World Cups if push comes to shove.
They could. And I mean, if you look at their last team that they pulled up, you definitely see some youth. You definitely see some players. Mendez coming back from injury will be good for them, but like you're still seeing like when you get to the bottom end of their squad, right? You're seeing the Wagner Pina, right? You're seeing the players like Veralda who are playing, not as well as they are, but at least you're seeing that integration of youth
Right.
that are kind of starting to push into the scene. Because what you don't want to see is, like, to use the CONCACAF example. In CONCACAF, they were able to do it, but like you don't want them to turn into like a Costa Rica where it's like you're throwing down and listen, Brian Ruiz, legend in Costa Rican football. 4 years ago, they were just like, yo, can we get 40 from him? Can we get 45 from him? Can we just and the fun and it's, I think it's an apt comparison because when you look at the depth that Costa Rica had, like they have young players ready to chomp at the bit there. So I think for Cape Verde, Capo Verde, it's going to be a conversation of whether or not those players are ready to take the mantle and run with it. But for where they are, I mean, don't let the nerves get to you here. It's not the view from the top of the mountain can be daunting. Just, don't be afraid of it.
The climbing is easy. It's staying on top. That's the hardest.
Chasing that's true. That is
and
true.
That's why we kept saying for all of the teams that we did not expect to be at the top, that's where the experience will take. And Cameroon, they're there, even though they're in second place, is not as dire as Nigeria and others because they're 1 point away. They have not lost, and they've scored 12 goals. So I think so far I've seen after. We're going to talk about Group E, but so far they're the one that scored the most goals.
Mm-hmm. No, they're definitely doing well there. So I think for them, I think Capo Verde, for the story purposes, I think them winning this, we'll see if they can get it through. Cameroon, this side, they've just, I mean, how they qualified for the last World Cup, and I know like that was a whole conversation in itself, and then the performances that they had. So they know how to get things done in the most dramatic of ways. This group will go down to the wire, and I look forward to watching it. Their September matchups, like again, will be fascinating to look at. But Capo Verde and Cameroon play well. Give us that ending finish that we're gonna love, and Libya make it difficult on someone, please. Just for Senegalese,
interesting.
make it difficult for them. Group E, the group that makes no sense to anyone because I think by their last window there'll be 2 teams left because CAF and FIFA care about some things, but not about all things. Don't mess with our government interference. Don't mess with our money. Everything else, apparently nothing else matters.
But
I was really, and I think that's disappointing for me because I was really looking forward to see what Congo could do in this group. They didn't start off well, but Congo looked like a side that could maybe start to grow into that middle class level and really establish themselves, but they didn't. And Eritrea did Eritrea things. So, I mean, we'll leave that
They're all
there.
zeros. What happened there? Oh, is it there's a conflict?
With Congo,
No, Eteria, because it's all zeros, right?
yeah, they just never, they were going to join and then they withdrew from the competition. Um,
A big
according to a lot of
settlement.
the reports I was reading, it's to put it in a CONCACAF perspective, Eritrea is like Cuba. So there was a concern that players, might go play qualifying games and just
And
not
it
get back
just,
on the bus. And so,
okay. Well, eh.
so that was their concern. So and then Congo 3 games in, whatever the
I have no
reason,
comments.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
13 goals allowed?
that's disappointing to me. I thought they could have been a side that could have pushed and done something. Maybe they wouldn't have finished second, but they could have maybe finished third, maybe fourth, and had a good join. I was hoping we could get that from them, but we didn't.
I,
Zambia, I mean, let's be real, their women's team is more popular than the men's team right now, and it's okay.
there's plenty of other countries. And to be honest, even on that Group E, I did not really follow as much.
Yeah.
I just knew it was Morocco, and I knew they were going to run with it, and then just allow whoever is going to go in second place. It was supposed to be Congo, but it isn't.
Yeah.
So Niger is and Tanzania. Well, Tanzania looks like it's Morocco and Niger
It's
for me.
Morocco. It's just Morocco. Niger is there. But
Well, they are for
well,
second place, man, right?
yeah, but I mean, I don't. Their problem is going to be points. They can't accumulate the points to get anywhere. That once you lost those 2 teams in your group, it's a 1 slot team group,
Yeah,
right?
so they're 6. Yeah. Yeah, it's not happening on that part.
Yeah,
And Marco's qualified already, so we really
yeah.
don't have to talk about them. But
They to me are the Morocco. To me, might be from a roster and just fluid, versatile standpoint. They might be the best African side walking into the World Cup in terms of you won't tell us how we're going to play because we can play however we want to play. If we're going to
I
sit back, we can do that. If we need to possess the ball and play that way, we can do that. If we need to play in a or a low block, we can do that. Morocco right now feels like, especially against outside African countries outside of the continent, I feel like any style you want to play, they can play that style. And they are the side that I said this on a pod yesterday. I think they're the side right now that is pushing. Could they have another semifinal run? It's a bigger field, so stranger things can
I'll say
happen.
yes.
But
But I
I
think they
think they're equipped
are
to do it.
the African de facto.
Favorite, yeah.
Yes, they're and it's not just their team. I think it's just their federation, the country, the structure, they're pretty much I think what every African country should do. Maybe even those that are well established like Nigeria and all that, they should just take that blueprint and just slap it in all
Yeah.
51 countries. It's like this is the blueprint.
Yep. They have done it well. I think people have been saying, I've been echoing it. I think they have become the model child for the continent in terms of, like you said, building your infrastructure,
Mhm.
investing in the game, recruiting, getting players to buy into your program, right? Making strides on the women's side, like making
Yep.
choices to help that program. Though some people would say just not with that coach. Besides the point.
Coach is one thing out of
Yeah,
the huge thing. He's just lucky that he has the players he has. And I think he has like the dream job that I think all African coaches wish they had at this moment. That's
yeah,
why CAF is going there for every event.
yeah. They have,
That's why
and
that World Cup is gonna be.
it should have been okay.
It's gonna
That
be
World Cup should have
amazing.
just been in Morocco.
Oh, it would have been something else.
We
But
like
Spain is
yeah,
like Morocco.
it is. But
Yes.
like, I mean, are we really gonna have a politics of FIFA conversation where every other federation got it, so that 2034 just happens to be in Saudi Arabia because reasons?
Well, you see now they're giving those like hotcakes, right? Isn't it one
Hotcakes.
they're talking about multi-continents?
The
Like,
multi, yeah, the multi-continent. Like, look, Morocco, Spain, Portugal makes sense as a
yes,
host
because they're
because they're right there. It's the
yes,
same corridor. But then throwing in Uruguay and Chile for a host because it's 100 years. I'm
yeah,
like, then just put it in South America. It's not hard.
yeah. Oh, they're gonna make money. I can tell you that.
Listen, that oil money only lasts for so long, so you gotta invest. You gotta cash in while you can.
It's working.
I know. I'm well aware. But yeah, I think Morocco right now are setting themselves up that they basically have one window and they're in. There's no team, barring a collapse of epic proportions,
But I
of
thought
which
they are qualified though.
are they?
Yeah, I thought I saw the a, a post online that says that they're pretty much they are qualified. I
They
think they're
pretty
probably
much are.
the first African country that's qualified,
All right,
unless
team
I
squad.
misread that.
Nope. According to the trusted sources of Wikipedia, so take that with all the
Oh,
salt.
I thought I saw it in a like a sporting.
I
I
think
thought I
they
saw it.
are all but in. Like Morocco, basically are all but in just because of the group, right?
Right.
They've gone 5 up, 5 down, and
I guess
so
easy math. I
uh,
guess.
yeah, they've won 5 games. Like one more win, and they can't be caught,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're gonna win that. But yeah,
Because if Niger gets because they only have maybe yeah because there's less games to play.
yeah, they're
So technically 6 games is what they would be playing. So the other teams only have 2 more games to play.
and there's no way to go from.
Yeah. 9,
They
12. So
cannot
yeah.
pass 12.
So I think it's because Congo hasn't been decided yet. But if it stays with only 4 teams in the group, they are emotionally in. Like right now, they're emotionally in. But the other teams that have qualified are Japan, New Zealand, Iran, and Argentina because outside of the host. So 7 of
Yeah,
the 48 are in right now.
it's not too bad.
It's
I like
not
those
too
teams,
bad. I
those
do like
countries.
this thing. Yeah. Group F. Ah, this group matters to me because my best friend is Gambian and my next best friend is Kenyan. So the group chat was fire last week. It was fire. It was great. I was
As
like, you
usual,
can't.
yes.
Oh, it was so good. And then whenever Ghana loses, like your ketchup rice is terrible. So
Yes.
you guys are hold the lead, Kenya. Do something, then run a marathon. Yeah, that's right. I said it. No, but
Uh, hey, to
Cote
each his own.
d'Ivoire, Cote d'Ivoire and Gabon being the team that they are isn't a surprise.
Nope.
Burundi kind of hanging around in shouting distance.
Mhm.
I am a little bit surprised because I hoped that would be Gambia in this set, but Gambia, like Cote d'Ivoire, since winning AFCON, they have just been in a great run of form, and the formula has worked. The players have bought in. And 14 goals for, none against.
Enough said.
That's enough said. But like Buanga and Aubameyang with Gabon basically saying, "Don't ever doubt these feet."
Mhm.
Is look, that group is going to go down to the wire. We talked about maturity and experience. That is something that Gambia does not have,
Nope. But Gabo and Navicos have a.
and they do.
uh,
They do.
Yes, I think that one is, and they are what 16 and 15 points,
Yep.
and Burgundy is at 10. There's no catching up. You're,
No,
yeah,
and
they're
just
done.
playing. And
And I'm
if you're,
disappointed.
yeah,
Seychelles should have. Seychelles is way too not too beautiful of a country to be in all red.
Listen,
But that's non-sporting
non-sporting
reasons.
reasons, I agree.
Yes.
But like we talked about, like the maturity and that experience, right? Gambia have left for sure in this window. They've left 3 points on the no 3 or 4 points on the pitch. That Gambia Kenya game was life for me because it was. I mean, for me as a neutral, I was just laughing at my friends in the group chat, be like, "Your teams can't defend. Musa Barrow can't hit a penalty." And then Kenya came back. I
Wow.
was like, and I think this has been my commentary with Gambia. They are definitely young. They have learned lovely ways how to throw away points. At some point,
Yeah.
they'd like to keep some. Like I would really appreciate it if they could. But we saw that with World Cup with AFCON qualifiers, right? They left 4 points on the pitch against Madagascar. And it's like, you shouldn't be doing that. And then against Kenya, you're up 4-1. I mean, you're up 3-1. There's no reason you should lose that game, let alone draw it. And they drew it, and they just missed opportunities at the end. They're just missing they're creating opportunities. They are like a Nigeria where there's so much offensive talent that they almost have to approach the game saying, we need to hit 5, right?
We hit more goals than the other team. Okay.
Right. Exactly. Because on the pitch, they've just not been able to. They haven't been able to put together a solid 90, let alone a solid defensive output. And so for me, it's like you need 4, you need 3, 4. If you can get 5, get 5. Because there is no we have a lead. Let's sit back and and hold this lead with Gambia. No.
And they have 12 goals though for them, but 13 against.
But that's the story,
So,
right?
yeah, so they're all offense and no defense.
Right. They played Cote d'Ivoire and they lost to them 1-0 after the 1-1 draw. And it's not for lack of opportunities. This Gambian side is good. They just need some maturity in terms of seeing these games through. If they're able to do that, I think next cycle, they'll be a country that you look at and say, okay, they could definitely cause something. But here you see the teases of the potential, but you also see the reality, which is
No defense.
just not mature enough to get those results. And it sucks for them, but that is life. And Kenya is just Kenya. So, do what you got to do.
I'm going to leave that out. I don't know what that means. Kenya is just Kenya, but well,
he will call me when this goes. I was like, really? We're just boy, like
just,
he'll tell me we only enter things we know we can win. I'm like, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, they're there. They entered.
They did. Fascinating group is Group G to me because Algeria on paper should go. Mozambique are not leaving them. Botswana and Uganda are lovely. And then Somalia is just there. And Guinea. But this is like when someone says the middle class of Africa are pushing up, this is the group that they look at and say, yes, this is it, right? Everyone has wins and losses against each other, right? Between second and fifth place, you're only separated by 5 points, 7 points between first and fifth, but you're 2 wins away from being back in the fray. But this group, when I say groups have given me life, this group has given me life because no one is clearly better than anyone. Just that Algeria have been able to string together the wins. Every team,
looks like
every
pretty
group is
much
tough.
Not as secure. Looks like.
Yep.
So pretty much 2, 3, and 4, and 5. It's one game away of winning or losing for you to move up.
Yep.
To Botswana. So yeah, so pretty much Botswana, Uganda, Guinea, they have to pretty much win all their games to have a chance to go above Mozambique.
Yes.
And yeah, that's a good one.
It is a good one. And Botswana isn't a soft side either. The Cranes at Uganda and Mozambique, honestly, they're gonna push. They're gonna push and be that side that wants to get to that top 10 of Africa very soon. Like Guinea have been there and have performed, and they have names, but Mozambique and Uganda, I feel like they're next up. Like the same way that I think Gambia is. They're to me, they're Gambia, but with the results, right? Like Gambia doesn't have the results; you just have the potential that's been teased. These sides are showing, okay, no, we're there. We can push here. So I'm very excited. I think Algeria ultimately, just because of the talent that they have, they push through. But I think a second place team from this group could be scary as well. Because when you look at the second place groups, there's just a bunch of teams on 12 points. And Botswana is 3 points from 12. Uganda is 3 points from 12. Guinea are 2 results from 13.
So it
So
looks like we might lose a big time country in those in the second place
for
playoffs.
the rights to play, for the potential to play at the World Cup, not even an automatic spot.
No.
I think Group G, when we say, like I said, pushing towards it, it's Group G is where I look at it and say, okay, this is the group that we're talking about here. H, Tunisia, a side that, as a sub-Saharan Africa, I keep saying they can't keep getting away with this, but it's what they do.
They are. Yes.
They get the results. Namibia in second, Liberia in third, Equatorial Guinea. Oh my goodness, Equatorial Guinea.
What's that?
Equatorial Guinea is a side, they're going to mess up this group. Because if not for, you remember the controversy at AFCON, the last AFCON? Ensu
Is it the
from
age?
Equatorial. Yes. Well,
Yes.
Ensu, he was Spanish born. He played, but then apparently they told him he wasn't eligible, so he had to sit for a year. His year came up before their last game, so he got to play in their last game, and he scored, and they played well. That side with him, they have a finisher. So that side with him, they will cause anyone trouble. Right? That man won the Golden Boot at AFCON. Right? So
And not even a striker.
He's technically a fullback, but he plays striker for his national team because African football. I think Tunisia makes it through, but Namibia and Liberia, listen, secure your points because this man doesn't care. He's coming to score goals and chew bubble gum, and he's all out of bubble gum.
So it's on. So there are 7. So 3 points there are 10.
Yep.
And then 2 games there, 13. So yeah, the Ecuador are still in there. They just have to not get scored on that as many because they only score 4 goals and allowed 8.
Yeah, I think defensively they're solid enough because they've only conceded 8 goals in 6 games, which isn't a bad record. It's not a bad. They have Sao Tome and Principe in their first game, so that should be a win for Equatorial Guinea. But to me, it's the match day 8, which is always fascinating because you get a result, that's fine, but then who do you play next? That will really impact who you're playing. And of course, they play Tunisia on the second
so a
game.
team that's already comfortable at the top.
They should be comfortable enough. I mean, only 4 points up on Namibia helps because even if they drop points, worst case scenario, they'll just be a point up.
Yep.
But that could be a fascinating game because I think Ensu is the type of player who can win a game on his own just with his finishing. Because it's not that he finishes, it's the consistency that he finishes at. That's what really changes the game for them. And if they have that on already solid defensive team, they're going to cause problems in this group. And so for me, Tunisia on paper should make it through. Namibia will push, but hey, Equatorial Guinea, you're there. I look forward to this chaos. I look forward to it.
I guess I'm gonna have to make a note on that game because I guess I'll have to be watching that one or stream it. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm available on weekends. Don't worry.
Hey, I'll message you then.
Perfect.
See,
Group I mean, Ghanaians are now just celebrating because they lost one game and now they've won the rest. And so apparently it means we are back. We beat Chad, guys. We beat Chad and we beat Madagascar.
Ooh.
Let's breathe. Let's breathe a little bit. I'm glad that we scored goals. I'm glad that we look good. They play Chad again afterwards, but I think for Ghanaian supporters, this is the results that you wanted to see. And this is, again, the only difference between Ghana and Nigeria is that Ghana have put together results here. They have a nice string of results.
15
and
goals.
they look good. 15 goals. I mean, 15 goals, 8 of them came this last window.
Okay.
So, I mean,
I think for me, the disappointment is Mali.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So pretty much their problem is that they have not been able to take their success from their youth tournaments and put that in the senior team to do the same thing they've done in literally the World Cup of U17 and 23.
It's true, and I think you can speak to Gambia on this as well. I think there's a difference in playing against your peers and then trying to play at the senior level, because you're not just trying to be the best 20-year-old player. Now you have to be the best overall player, right? You're not just competing with kids who are just breaking into teams. You're competing with people who have been professionals for exactly grown men who do this for a living and have to feed their families and play at that consistency and have been doing this for 5, 6, 7 years. Boy, you just got here. Like these men have been doing this for longer. These men are people you were looking up to, hoping you could be. Now you have to outplay them and outwork them. And maybe eventually some of them are starting to able to matriculate in. But I think for Mali, I agree. They've not been able to translate that youth success to senior boys, the senior men's success. And maybe it comes, but right now we're not seeing the results. And as a result,
Comoros is on there.
Comoros is the surprise, and I don't think you can take them lightly. If you're Ghana, you can't take them lightly. That's Ghana's only loss. They lost to Comoros. No, it was Madagascar. My apologies. They lost to Madagascar their second game. They lost to Comoros at the AFCON in 2022. A very famous AFCON. Because
so
apparently
there's history there.
Oh, there's history. we want our get back. Oh, we want our get back. But
and what? So only 3 points difference, 3 and 3. Still a game to go. So
it is.
Ghana's not out of it then.
No, but Ghana plays Chad, then they play Comoros their next window. So another 6-point window, and they can start thinking about visas. They can start thinking about travel visas, but they again get the results. That's what matters here. Get the results, and they're good. Then you get to Group J is just all the second place teams, right? And this is what I was talking about with Niger, right? Niger in Morocco's group, they don't have the games to catch up.
Yeah,
so
no,
they're eliminated.
So 3 points.
Look at all these teams on 12 to 11, right? Burkina Faso, Mozambique, Comoros, Namibia, Senegal, Cameroon. If the competition were to end today, your intercontinental playoff matchups would be Gabon versus Namibia, and then Cameroon versus Senegal.
I don't want that.
I mean, for viewing purposes,
the neutral, yes, but no, it wouldn't be good.
It's just not their best matchup.
No.
And so I think for that, yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say no. So with that, I mean, that's where when I said this last window, I think that was the separation window. You saw the top teams were able to move over, but then you see the schmozzle in the middle. And I think that's where it gets really interesting, fascinating. Having gone through it all, how are you feeling? Like, I mean, you could put on your Senegal cap and say, I'm feeling okay, but
Yeah.
stressed, but like, how are you
I
feeling?
will say, let's see. So we're on 339. You know what? I'll say a little stress. Just the reason for the goals for looks like Cameroon is still hitting their stride by scoring enough goals. So they're 12 versus 8. I think that's the only concerns that I have. And I think we have lost him. Oh, he's back.
No, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
But yes, I think the only concern that I have is the goals for against.
Yeah.
But we have a better defense. So, and I think pretty much we know that you have to go to goals before you go to goals scored against you. So,
Yeah.
now Senegal has to go in one of those runs where they beat someone 5-0.
Yeah. And like on paper, you think they have the talent to do so, but you got
But
to
it's
do it, right?
football.
Exactly. Right. I can bemoan and say, oh, Ghana only beat Chad 5-0. Listen, those five matter. Okay. Those five
Mhm.
goals matter. And so no complaints for me there. But at the end of the day, survive. It's like the NCAA tournament, right? Survive and advance.
Yep.
Get the result and go on to the next thing, and that's all you can really do. And that makes things a little bit easier for you, and you can move over that way. So that's all you want from your team, and that's what you have. Before we shut this off here, quick reminder of what's coming up because it's in September, so it's a little bit far off. But think about some of these matchups that'll impact everything, right? You have Cape Verde, Mauritius, right? Kenya, Gambia for my group chat. It's lovely. Mali, Comoros. Like, can Mali start to put together, maybe finish strong?
That's on the target.
Senegal, Sudan on the first. I think that's a big game of
Yes,
September.
I think I might have to create a group chat on that one with my
Oh,
Sudanese friends.
call me. We're there. We're there. We are there, right? Tunisia versus Liberia. Tunisia's leading, but a good win by Liberia, and they're back in it. Not
Yep.
impossible. Morocco, Niger. I mean, Morocco wins this.
Yeah.
They can basically say we're going to stay in Montreal for the bit, and we'll be good. DR Congo versus South Sudan. I mean, DR Congo just has
Yeah.
to keep on putting together performances, and they're fine. Mozambique, Uganda. I think that's a fascinating matchup. Everything in that group, and then they have Algeria, Botswana as well. We already talked about Nigeria, Rwanda. I think Nigeria needs another. They need 6 points, nothing less. If not, they might as well just call up their U23s for the last window because I don't think it's gonna make a big difference for them. We said Guinea versus Somalia could be fun, and then match day 8, right? You have Libya, Eswatini, Burkina Faso versus Egypt. Could do it. Guinea versus Algeria again. Could be fun. A fun matchup. Zimbabwe versus Rwanda. Rwanda has to keep
So
pace with
interesting.
these teams. Cape Verde, Cameroon. I think that's a
That's a good one.
fascinating matchup. Senegal, DR Congo on the 8th. Another fascinating matchup. South
Close
Africa,
win.
Nigeria. The 8th. Other TBDs. It'll probably be stretched around to like 7th and 9th a little bit, but that's group of games, I think, all fascinating. Tunisia, Equatorial Guinea, again, good matchups. Lovely football coming in Africa. But we have June. June is here. Cote d'Ivoire and Canada in June for the Canadian Shield. So I mean I get to see the African champions in Toronto. So I'm here for it.
Nice.
Ghana and Nigeria are playing in what I'm calling the Commonwealth Cup, but it's the Unity Cup. Come on, it's Ghana,
Oh,
Nigeria,
really?
Jamaica, Trinidad playing in England. Just acknowledge the Queen already and just say Commonwealth because that's what it is. But
True.
you have that coming. One of the African teams are playing Ireland. I forget which one it is, but
Isn't it Senegal was going to be the first one to play in one of their stadiums?
yeah, I think so. Let me look up Senegal here.
You know, it's coming. I'm impressed. You know, they're all getting invited to.
They are. I wonder how they're able to kind of play through just because it's the end of the season. So I do wonder if they if that's going to be their best team. Yeah, on the 6th of June, Ireland versus Senegal. Yeah, Senegal, Ireland. Yeah, there it
and
is.
they have no ties, so it's just countries that want to play against each other. So
Exactly. The friendly, that's a whole thing. I miss friendlies. I just miss, and I understand why you want to introduce Nations League so you can play them, but I want to see the random, okay, Canada plays Ukraine, cool. Canada's playing
yeah,
Cote d'Ivoire, great.
yeah, but now they
Korea's
want
going playing
money around it. So
yeah, it's all money, but still, give me the matchups where South Korea goes to Morocco and plays Morocco for no reason. Give me this. I think that's as a footballer, those are the mixes we don't get to see as often. We just get
yeah,
to see continental. So give me those.
and that's how you prepare yourself to play against
Yep,
those countries in World Cup because you familiar with some of them.
exactly.
But
Though I know with a bigger pool, those pre-World Cup friendlies are fascinating because I mean you could play anyone. Like
that's what you
the
need, right?
right,
Well, I think
like
the U.S. was a friendly was like against Uzbekistan.
the
Half of I probably won't say half. I will say 90% of the U.S. didn't know where Uzbekistan was.
and it helped them so well.
Oh, they barely beat them.
Yeah, I mean I say this as a Canadian, and Canada played Japan and then Uruguay, and the Uruguay matchup was just there are levels. There
Yes,
are levels.
Uruguay is different. Yes.
They they are. They are. But I mean Uruguay is different, but when you're Ghanaian, it's different. Oh, it's different.
I yeah, your friend Suarez. Yeah. Oh,
Listen, when
yeah.
Canada played when Canada played them in the third place game of the Copa, I was like, if Richie, if you do anything, I understand. I get
Remember
it.
your roots.
Remember your
Yeah.
roots,
Yes.
please.
Remember. Oh,
You any card you get there, I understand. It's not selfish. It's selfless. Okay?
but
But
did he get any or just
no,
no?
no. He scored Suarez scored the tying goal. I was like, it had to be him, eh?
He,
Anyone but him. And it was
he
him.
that 39-year-old or whatever body he is, he's still doing it even in MLS.
Barely moving, but is able to
Mhm.
score on the counters. This is you know what? Class is class. Whether you
Yes.
think it's classless or not, it's still class.
You still
Ah,
have to respect them.
indeed. But yeah, good friendlies coming up in June, so I'll be fun to watch that. And you have everything. I mean, I don't know what's going on in St. Louis soccer that you
Mhm.
aren't covering. So, um, at this point, what don't you
I,
know
I
about?
I try to kind of like, spread the love and the knowledge that we grew up with
Yeah,
to our northern friends because they're they're missing out. They like I always tell a lot of them is that you are missing out so much more when you just get stuck watching EPL, La Liga,
yeah,
Bundesliga. Like those are the things that you guys know, and that's it. But I was like, us growing up, when you think about it, it's like me, for example, like a PSG fan, right?
yeah.
So when I grew up and I was telling a Brazilian friend, he's like, so who's like your favorite Brazilian player? And they, a lot of them go says Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, and I say Rai is my favorite. That's like the guy that introduced me to world soccer. They're like, how the heck do you know him? I said he was the first Brazilian that played in for PSG, and he's a legend. And they're like, oh, I have to Google him. I was like, those are the things that you guys are kind of missing out is that you're so caught up with the new generation or maybe one or two removed
Yeah.
that you don't know those that came before Ronaldo, before
But
Ronaldinho's.
it's true, but that era of football was an amazing
Magical.
era.
Yes.
Magical. And I think the problem is it's well, everyone will love their era. I'm just more of a Listen, I will watch. Like I've always been that person. If it's sports and it's good, I'm in. I don't
Yeah.
care who's playing, what's playing, when it's playing. If it's good, I got 2 hours. Let's go. So for me, like when you grew up just having access to certain football, right? That's why I think local leagues matter, the smaller leagues,
Yes.
right? Even if you want to call like something like the CPL a small league, those things matter
Hmm.
because you'll see it's an opportunity to showcase and you get to see those players grow. They get to show their talent. And whether they stay there, whether they go, it's still quality football. So you want to take a look at it and see how it is. So watch them, enjoy them, support them. Yes, enjoy the spectacle that is the EPL, the Champions League. I'm not saying avoid it, but
There's more.
like flip the channel if you see something like okay, cool. There's this happen. Like we have League One semi-pro in Ontario. It's like I've been to a couple of games. It's like okay, these are some names, and you'll see some names in a few years. Be like okay, this guy's
I
really rounded
remember.
out his game. This is great. This is great. And maybe their ceiling is just played at the CPL. Maybe their ceiling is playing in the Bulgarian third division. I don't know.
Hey,
But
you're getting
follow your
paid.
dreams, son. Go do it.
You're
Right?
getting paid. Yeah.
Exactly.
It. But yeah, so that's what I do. That's pretty much what I try to do as much is that even though I cover a lot from pretty much now these days, grassroots, high school, and then college and all that is just to the fact that sometimes you just need that one sparkle that sees that one kid that you can say he's from my city. That's how us African, that's how us in Europe
Yeah.
has grew up because we we could care less if you were the best player in the world that just won the Ballon d'Or. If we know that you came from our neighborhood and now you're playing in X location,
Yep.
that would trickle down to 5, 10, 15 other kids
Exactly.
versus somebody where, you idolized Messi and all that, right? But for Argentinian kid, he's it.
Yep.
But if you're American and then you still idolize him, you're idolizing someone other legend from a different country.
Yeah.
That's why I think some of the northern, US, Canada is kind of missing that generation of players that
Yeah.
your dad says he was the best. Your uncle say he was the best. Your younger cousin say he was the best. So now you have the discussion of 25, 30, 45 years of players versus Pulisic is the best. Well, he's only been around
Yeah.
for 7, 8 years.
Yeah, the reference points is so different, right? Like I say, like I did this with one of my best friends are like, "When you think Italian soccer, who do you think?" And they're like, "Well, Pirlo." You think of the I'm like,
Oh,
I'm a year older than them, and I'm like, to me, I think Italian soccer. I'm like Baggio. Like
yeah, and
Baggio is what I think about. Like,
Inzaghi, and
exactly that, and they're
yes,
like, "Why would you think that?" Like, but that's the generation I grew also like. That where I am, a lot of Italians, so they'll let you know.
yeah,
Baggio was the best player. It's like, sir, pass me the cannoli and tell me more about Baggio, okay?
yeah.
Because
Tell me more. Well, he was the de facto. So yeah, so I think that is those questions that you want, and like the Alfonso Davies are building that generation, but it will
yeah,
still take maybe 20 years plus. Pulisic and all of these guys here, it will take that 10, 15 years
yeah,
to be able to have that reference
I agreed.
because you almost probably could go from each country in Africa and say a legend that you look up to. So that's
Probably,
how
yeah,
the US and Canada should be able to do is like, hey, this guy came from La Provence du Québec. This
right,
is who he is.
yeah,
He Alberta, this is that guy. This is that
yeah,
guy. At this moment, we have just a handful of players that came from one place. The US is the same thing. You have 50 states. I can guarantee you cannot go on the national team now and says these guys from this state, that state, that state. But
oh, of
St.
course not,
Louis has two in the national team. Zimmerman is there's two St. Louis player.
yeah,
Sargent is one too. They're both
uh-huh.
from St. Louis. and they went from the same high school. And who coached them is still coaching here at St. Dominic.
Well, he's got his feather in the sky. Be like, you want to make the national team?
He has that school. They won championships and all that. But it's like, that's why I kind of lucked out. I tell people I lucked out in St. Louis, because even though they have their history that not many people know, but they're like, hey, St. Dominic, and dude has 2 players, one that's killing it in championship, and one is the captain of the U.S. national team from the same high school.
Yeah.
So that's what I do at MoFutbol. Just promote from all the way from top, all the way to
the bottom,
to the pros. Tomorrow I'm doing a D1 coach interview.
Tomorrow or today or yesterday, depending on when you watch this.
Yes. On March 31st.
Okay.
Yes, there you go.
Perfect. So make sure you do that. I will tag, his tagline will be on this here. So description in there as well as in the title. So if you haven't got to MoFutbol, go do that. Congratulations on 2,300 subscribers, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah.
You're doing, sir, you shot up. I was just like, okay, he's here. I'm like, what did he?
Yeah.
Bro.
African.
I know. I looked at
when they hear you. So yes, big shout out to. But and I think the last part I want to add, especially on those guys that kind of brought it up, is that I guess you saw it from the soccer academy.
Yeah.
And I think the plan is probably to do a lot more of those type of interviews. Maybe I'll bring you in as well for like us on the Western world, to see how we can kind of help those academies. Because they just need the eyeballs to be able to produce more Canadian national team players and whoever from those continents.
It's true. Like, we could go for another hour on like the merits of overseas versus local based players, and like it's not even the debate that people are having with it. It's just the debate of like, what is the health of your football infrastructure? It's not about who's better or not. The conversation is, what is the health of your local football infrastructure? And if it's healthy, like, you could talk to, there are like many, I watched a Ghanaian interview where it was like, when we would bring players over and they would come and play, everyone knew that we were all at the same level. It was just a matter of what were we trying to do on the pitch. Now you could say that there's a difference because the talent is a bit more concentrated. That doesn't mean that you can't develop your local player. Now, how you choose to do that, that is a fair debate. That is a fair conversation, right? After talking to many different people, it's like there are people who will tell me, use the national team. Other people will say the national team isn't a shop window where you're just selling everything. But local versus international is at its core a conversation of the health of your local soccer infrastructure and what you are or not doing to support it. And so it all boils down to that. And we could talk about this for hours, but
I can brag and say that my neighborhood has a dozen professional soccer players in EPL league, and 5 of them has won a World Cup.
Which passport are you using, sir? I just want to be clear here.
No, I'm talking about our French from Paris. Our neighborhoods.
Yeah,
we have 5 World Cup champions.
I don't know what my famous claim is, but I got athletes. I know athletes. But we'll wrap it up here, guys. Make sure we know we'll be back.
Yes.
One day, Mo will invite me to his channel, and we'll be friends forever.
You want to make it tomorrow?
No.
Hey, whenever you're ready, you let me know,
bro. I will let you know. I will let you know.
Hey, we can talk Canadian soccer, man. I'll send you a picture. My son had Toronto jersey because we have a lot of kids, but he was wearing Toronto on Sunday.
I'm happy for him that he was able to experience a scoreless draw.
Progress. They did not lose. That's how you look at it that way.
Fair enough. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up here. And as always, I'm gonna stop talking right here.